Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So, Taito New Zealand Series, is that an analog in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? And today we're going to be going over the Taito New Zealand core, how to get it set up and onto your pocket, and the best games to play in my opinion. Now, this one definitely feels like a deeper cut. It has the New Zealand Story, and I absolutely love that game, but the games on this core and this arcade board are definitely more of the B-tier deep cut games that maybe not everyone's played, but that's actually what I love talking about the most. Not the things that everyone's heard about, but the things that maybe only 50% of you or so have. Before I get too far involved, it'd be a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I absolutely love the New Zealand Story. I have this on PC Engine, I have it on a lot of different systems, but I actually never got an original arcade board. But having it on Analogue Pocket just makes that need go away. This is like the perfect game just to play on the train, on a plane, or when you're traveling around. If you're looking for this core, if you just pop into OpenFPGA, it's going to be under Arcade Multi, and you're going to see the heading for Taito New Zealand. How it works is when Jotego makes a new board and a multi, the first game that usually runs on it is what he calls the core. This instance, it was New Zealand Story. And if you want to have these cores on your pocket, go ahead and run Pocket Updater and hit Update All. And I believe the recording of this video, you need the jtbeta.zip to at least get access to one of the cores. You need that from the Patreon. What you do is just put it on the root directory of your SD card. So when you run Pocket Updater, it'll unzip that and put the beta key in every single folder it needs to be. Trust me, you do not want to copy and paste it over by hand. You have to put it in like 50 different spots. But if you run Pocket Updater, you have that zip file in the right place, the games will start to run. And if for any reason you see the games running, but you cannot put a coin in and you can't actually start the game, that means the beta key either isn't there or it is not the correct key and you need to move over to Patreon and check again. That's just not something I show on camera. If you're not a Patreon member, it's not something you're supposed to see. But honestly, the New Zealand Story is worth the core in and of itself. This is just such an awesome game. Now be aware that pretty much every single game is going to have different options, and they're all going to be in the core menu option. There is no real test menu for this era of hardware. Pretty much everything was done on dip switches. If you go into service mode, you just get those color bars and screen basically configurations there. If you want to change the difficulty, you have to go ahead and switch that there, and I recommend restarting the core if it requests to. Sometimes those changes don't take effect until you do that, but once you do, playing something like New Zealand Story is just an absolute 10 out of 10. I'm not giving you a sample of the audio for this because it's going to get stuck in your head all day long if I actually let you listen to it. It's got some of the catchiest music Taito's ever done, and it sounds perfect here on the Analogue Pocket. And that's what the setup guide videos moving forward are kind of about, recommending good games, getting you set up, and telling you what actually exists. Because on some of these, the setup isn't that hard at all so long as you run Pocket Updater. If you run into any issues, just leave me a comment down below and I'll try to help you out. But whatever you do, play New Zealand Story for nobody else other than me. But tell me down below if you played this game before or not, because I would be curious. It is one of my favorite Taito games of all time. Now moving over to another Taito title, it's Insector X. It's a horizontal shmup with a bug theme. You play as some sort of anthropomorphic bug-like character, and you shoot bugs the entire way. This is another one of those games I feel like people are either going to have heard of it or not, and that's why I love the Jotego cores and Analogue Pocket in general, and FPGA especially. Not every single game is going to be something like Progress on the Capcom CPS2. There's going to be Insector X's out there, and they are going to be a ton of fun, but they're just probably not a game that you encountered back in the arcades in the day. Taito didn't get a huge amount of distribution outside of their most famous titles, and I have never seen an Insector X arcade cabinet anywhere I've gone in North America, so if you know where there is one, let me know, I would be curious. But again, this is a title you should check out. It's colorful, it's charming, and it's just different enough to engross you, and while it may look easy off these first couple bits, once you get into later levels, it definitely ramps up the difficulty, and it can be quite the challenge, because when you die, it's going to send you back, and it's going to send you back with none of your power-ups. So the name of the game is trying not to die here, and that's pretty much the name of any video game, but it's going to be very punishing if you take a death in Insector X. But there's a lot of memorization, a lot of fun to be had, and a lot of amazing artwork. Like this Egyptian level right here doesn't make any sense in the context of the game, but I love looking at it. And you know it's Taito, so it has a great soundtrack, and the core audio quality is amazing. Listen and I'll be right back. For what the audio hardware can do, it does sound good, but don't forget this is of a generation in which that 16-bit audio just wasn't really a huge thing whatsoever, so it's not going to be the same caliber of audio that you're used to hearing. But that doesn't matter because it's a fun, catchy soundtrack and it sounds accurate to the arcade original. Now moving over to Arkanoid here, I absolutely love this entire franchise. Let me tell you right off the top, I also absolutely suck at it. There was a bar, the Flatiron in Chicago, that unfortunately closed like 3 or 4 years ago during the pandemic in Wicker Park, and they had an Arkanoid cabinet in the back. Now this was not a classy bar whatsoever. It was a dive through and through where you could get a beer and a shot for $5, and trust me, I spent like $40 some nights just on beers and shots. It was a 4 a.m. bar and I definitely stumbled out of there a ton. But when I actually got a lot of drinks in me, I became very good at this game. Unfortunately, I was not able to get drunk while doing this video, or else I never would have gotten it finished, but it's one of those titles. No matter how bad I am at it sober, this is just a classic arcade experience, and having it here on Analogue Pocket is awesome. This is definitely not the type of game that's going to work the best on a D-pad. It does have a rotary option in the menu, so definitely check that out. You might not have a rotary controller, but it is there in case you pick one up. But this is just classic Taito arcade. This is one of the earliest breakout hits for them, pun very much intended, because this is kind of like a breakout game, but it's here on Analogue Pocket and it is fun, and it's definitely not unplayable with a D-pad. You just need to be a little bit more careful, and honestly, you just need to be a little bit better at this game than I am. But that's the fun part about video games. You don't need to be good at them to enjoy them. I say that on the channel all the time. A lot of people say they're not great at shmup, so they don't feel like they should play them. Just get better at these games. I'm sure if I played Arkanoid here, that for the next 10 or 15 hours, I would become extremely proficient at it. But that's the great thing, I don't have to. I've got Analogue Pocket, and if I don't feel like I'm doing good, I could just pop over to the core and pick a completely different game out of the hat and see whether or not I like that one. So let's move over to Extermination. This is a run and gun game in the Tate screen configuration, and it is another hard as nails game. You're going to find a lot of hard games on the New Zealand core. You'll see that you have a set amount of life at the bottom, and you're going to go towards the top of the screen. You have full range of motion, and it kind of plays like a shmup, but it doesn't exactly feel shmup-like at the same time. But every single thing that hits you, whether it's a projectile or an enemy, is going to take some of your health bar off, and this game can just be cruel. When you die, you're going to get sent back. When you use a continue, you're going to get pushed further back into the game. It wants your money, and it wants it quickly, and that's why you want to go into the options menu on each individual core and play around with the difficulty. Get used to doing that, especially if you're not familiar with arcade boards or don't collect them or play them a lot via emulation. All of the options and settings are going to be either on dip switches, and in this case an Analogue Pocket in the core options menu, or they're going to be in test menus for other cores. Just because something is hard doesn't mean you can't change the difficulty, because Extermination here mops the floor with my face every single time I play it. But you can go in and double the amount of life you get and reduce down your damage to give yourself a better chance of actually seeing the credits scroll on this game. But it's going to take a lot of skill, and again, it's a game that I feel like a lot of people probably haven't heard of. So tell me down below if you were familiar with Extermination and if you ever played it before, because I feel like this one out of any game in this video is going to be the one that maybe not many people know about outside of the next one that works on the core as well. But Extermination, it's completely difficult. It's going to drive you nuts, but you're going to have a ton of fun while it takes your money from you. But again, the great thing about Analogue Pocket is there's no real quarters changing hands. You've already made the investment on the hardware. That's the last time anyone's going to take money out of your pocket. Now moving over to Dr. Topple's Adventure here, this is a traditional shmup. You play as like a green dinosaur or frog. Honestly, I can't really tell. Kind of looks like Booblin from Bubble Bobble, and obviously being Taito, there could be a connection there, but I'm really not sure who it is. This is a game that I do know exists. I have played it in the past, but outside of FPGA, it is not a game I've thought about for a very long time. And that's the fun thing about a device like Analogue Pocket and a core like the New Zealand core. Even I am reminded of things that I forgot kind of existed out there. Because even though I do this channel, even though I collect arcade boards and have a obscene quantity in my closet, I do not know or remember everything that existed. And when Jotego was releasing these cores, when this one came up, I was reminded of myself, hey, that game actually does exist. I should go check it out. And that's the fun of exploring these games and these cores via these videos. Everyone's going to learn of something new, and even I can learn something. I'm not saying that I'm an encyclopedia of arcade knowledge, but I have been around the block once or twice. just be prepared again, just like Extermination. Death is going to absolutely haunt you. It is going to not be a good time. Now, the last game that works on the core right now is Kageki, and I do not understand this game whatsoever. Kind of plays like a more Japanese pit fighter, and I do not mean that as a good comparison. This game is just odd. It's a 2D versus fighting game, and you have all these super deformed characters in the top that you're going to have to fight at some point in time. It's got a lot of charm, it's got a lot of humor, but as far as actually landing strikes on your opponent, how the game actually plays, it 100% feels random. But if you play this game, if you love it, tell me down below what I am missing, because I would be curious. But those are the games that run on the Taito New Zealand core. Run Pocket Updater, hit update all, and if you need that beta key, just make sure jtbeta.zip is in the folder and you'll be good to go. But we're done, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.